Town Council this April 10th, 2018 at 5 p.m. at the Lake Lure Municipal Center. I'd like to begin by having invocation and a pledge of allegiance. I would ask all folks to stand and remove your caps or hats. Please bow your head. Heavenly Father, thank you for the many blessings you've bestowed on our community. As we gather here in public service to our town and its citizens, we ask for your divine guidance and wisdom to help us govern effectively, to do what serves the greater good and best interest of our citizens, and to be good stewards and guardians of this beautiful place we call home. In your name we humbly ask these things. Amen. 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 I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. All right, then we'll move to item number 2, which is agenda adoption. All commissioners have the agenda for tonight's meeting. Does anyone have any changes, additions, subtractions, anything?
Mr. Mayor, I've got a couple of changes here. Under item 7, the consent agenda, the concession agreement, recommend we remove that from the consent agenda and add it under unfinished business, item C.
Okay.
Under new business, item B, which is the Parks and Recreation Department. After we adopt that resolution, if we do so, then we need to appoint the alternate. So, and that only application we had for that was Mo Bay. So, but we need to do that after we take care of item B. And that were the only changes I have.
Okay, we'll just do that. Under item D, another bullet. Is that what you have in mind?
Yeah, I just had a second bullet under B.
Okay.
They both relate to the same issue.
Okay, very good. Anybody else have any changes? No. If not, I would entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
I'll make the motion we adopt the agenda as amended.
Commissioner Cameron makes the motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Commissioner Weber seconds. Any further discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, that moves to my item of the agenda, item number 3, which is the mayor's communications. I have another one of these pleasant but unpleasant tasks to perform this evening that has to do with the retirement or pending retirement of our fire chief, Ron Morgan. So I would ask, I will move to the front here of the dais, and I would ask Ron and I believe Dustin, if you would come forward and join me. And I will read a resolution of the town council, which will eventually here be adopted. And we have a couple of things to present to Ron. Okay, let me read the resolution, which I'll give to Ron when I'm through reading. It reads as following. This is Resolution 1804-10A. Honoring the dedicated service of Fire Chief Ronald J. Morgan and declaring the helmet and badge worn by Fire Chief Ronald J. Morgan surplus and awarding them to him upon his retirement. Whereas Fire Chief Ronald J. Morgan began working for the town of Lake Lure on December 5th of 1994 and was promoted to the position of Fire Chief on July 1st, 2008. And whereas Fire Chief Ronald J. Morgan has served the town in a dedicated and conscientious manner over the past 23 and a half years, and through his work has advanced the office of Fire Chief and displayed the highest degree of professionalism and integrity. And whereas GS 160A-294.1 provides that retiring members of a fire department may receive, at the time of their retirement and at the board's discretion, the helmet carried by them during their service with the municipality. And whereas Fire Chief Ronald J. Morgan is retiring on April 30th, 2018 after serving the town of Lake Lore and its citizens as fire coordinator, fire chief, and emergency management director, and he has served the Lake Lore community faithfully. Now therefore be it resolved by the Town Council of the Town of Lake Lore, North Carolina, that the board thanks Ronald J. Morgan for his dedicated service to the Town of Lake Lore, and that in service with GS 160A-294.1, the helmet and the badge worn by Ronald J. Morgan during his service with the Lake Lore Fire Department be declared surplus and awarded to him upon the occasion of his retirement. Be it further resolved that appreciation be expressed to Ronald J. Morgan for the service rendered by him during his employment with the town of Lake Lore, and wishes him well in his future endeavors. Adopted this 10th day of April 2018, attested by Michelle Jolly, interim town clerk, and signed by myself as mayor. So Ron, on behalf of the town, we want to thank you for your service, and we wish you well in all your future endeavors. Present the helmet and badge. Ron, thank you all very much. You're welcome to say something, Ron, if it's moving.
I won't say much, but I will say this. I've enjoyed my time here. A lot of the citizens in the audience I've had a chance to work with a lot over the years, and I really appreciate that. And council and past council, I really enjoyed my opportunity, and thanks for the opportunity to work here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we adopt resolution number 18-04-10A.
Okay, we have the motion to adopt the resolution by Commissioner Weber. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A second by Commissioner Cameron. There being no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Thank you all. All right, well, that brings us to item number 4, which is the Town Manager Communications. Ron Nally will handle this part of our agenda. Ron?
All right. Thank you, Mayor. And Chief Morgan, just want to thank you as well. I appreciate your hard work and the effort that you've extended with my time here, and I appreciate that, and hate to see you go, as the Mayor said, but I know you're looking forward to retirement, so congratulations. A couple of announcements. I think Donnie is ill. Do you want to give an update real quick, or okay? David will give you a quick update on the hydroelectric plant.
You need to start sitting over there.
In progress. No, everything's coming together, fitting good. It's slow. It's not happening overnight. I know everybody's wishing and hoping that it was back in and done, but John Wilson, the contractor, is working on that, is making sure that everything fits and works and to where it'll last a long time for the town. And so he was down there today before I left, stacking everything up and getting the final fit. And I think it's all ready to start going down in the hole and hopefully start buttoning it up and getting it together. But I think when it's done, it'll be a good job. So still got a ways to go.
Do we have a target date when that generator's going to be operational?
I don't, because all of that started before I came, and
Yeah.
I don't know what all is involved. I mean, once everything's back together, then you got to test and try to start up and this and that. Everything I've seen so far seems to be going good, but as far as giving you a timeline, I can't give you a timeline because I don't know for sure. And I don't want to get fussed at when it don't happen.
Well, we got you. Can I ask you a couple of things about your department report?
Yes.
The video, the storm drain that you did the video on,
Yes.
anything surprising? What's it going to take to fix if necessary?
Well, I called the town of Ruston. They were good enough to bring their camera up to the future home of the ABC store because of the concerns of the storm drain going up and out of there. We started the camera up through the storm drain, went, I'd say, what, 20-foot channel, approximately. We ran into an existing head wall and an old pipe, so it has been extended at some point in time. The existing pipe was probably 85 to 90% full, of silt with the water only coming out the very top 4 or 5 inches. At that point, we couldn't go any further. So is it a concern? In my opinion, it is, because that storm drain is full. It's not releasing the water like it should. So it's definitely something you might want to consider looking at.
So some remedial action is gonna have to be taken, but we don't know what yet.
That's exactly right.
Okay. The other thing, I wanted to applaud you and everybody involved on repairing the manhole. Super job there. Please, Step Construction, everybody.
Step Construction, they flew in there and did the best they could in a short period of time, and fortunately got it all done that one day.
Yep.
And we got started bringing it back up, so, yeah, I think it done a good job.
Great job, thank you.
Thank you.
Let me make one comment before you leave. I was talking with Eric Kunis today, and he had a really good suggestion that we should possibly in the future look at some sort of coffer-type system, that if we have another manhole go out,
Right.
you know, like in the summer or something, or
Right.
maybe, you know, it could happen on the 4th of July.
That's right.
That we could go drop over one of these things
Right.
and, you know, stop the bleeding for the time being.
Right.
Till we can get in there and do the repair like it should be. Is that, I'm not an engineer, I don't know how that works, but if there's something that we need to do to be more prepared in
Right.
case this comes up again,
Right.
I'm all for that.
Yeah, I think that is an option. I really do. I mean, and there's different types of coffer dams out there you can use, and we can look into it and see what all is available. Eric, by the way, was a big plus to us on that manhole repair.
Yeah.
He came out, dove down, looked at it himself, made his recommendation. So I want to make sure that he's thanked for that as well.
Yep.
'cause he
Yeah, we
helped us
went
out.
over that last month, and he did really do a great job and didn't charge us anything, so.
Yeah.
And then he mentioned this to me
Yeah.
since then,
Right.
so, I was just, suggesting that we look into it further and see if there's
Be glad
something
to.
there that else
Yeah.
that we need to do to be prepared.
Well, it could prevent the lake from having to be dropped, you know, if
Yeah.
it happened again, so.
Okay.
We'll
Is that
definitely
something we can
in
check
it.
on, maybe
Yes, sir.
report about at the next meeting?
Yeah. See what we can do.
Yeah. Thank you. One more thing.
Okay.
John was asking for an update on that hoist, if you don't mind, if you could update the rest of the people on the hoist.
I had Fountain Electric to come out and check the hoist. You're talking about the dam.
Yes.
And, it's got issues. I don't know what degree, but they recommended, a hoist and crane company out of Charlotte that works on these same type hoists for all the Duke Power dams and stuff like that. And, they came out and looked and measured, and they're coming up with a quote to either repair or replace what's there. They said they knew the type hoist that's there now was actually a good hoist for a lot of years, but the parts are not available for it anymore. He's looking to see if there's still anything that is available. He says he thinks the biggest problem with it is the internal brakes. It has an internal and external brake. And he said he thinks the internal brakes have failed, is what's causing it to pull so many amps when it's running. The downfall to the repair of that thing, from what they're telling me, is once you go in and you remove that thing, to be able to fix it, you're gonna have to fix a platform with safety railing and stuff to where you can access that thing. And so that's gonna be an added expense.
A permanent
Yes,
platform?
yes. So you can get up there and you can inspect it, you can work on it, fix whatever, you know. So
Bucket truck wouldn't count,
it'll take a big one to reach out there, but I did talk with a guy last Friday, I think it was, and he's about got all his quotes and stuff together, and said quick as the rest of his numbers came in, he was waiting to hear from CF Reese, I think, and a couple other people to get his final numbers together, and then he's supposed to get a proposal to me, which I'm afraid will be pretty pricey.
Is he going to include that platform in his proposal?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And,
Let me just double back one last thing to go back to the generator system. Now, what you were talking about is the repairs to the small generator.
yes.
The large generator, though, is back in service, it's working, generating
Yes, it's
power every day,
generating,
right?
yes, yes.
And with the leg back up,
Yes.
we're back up
Yep,
basically to full,
yep, that's right.
full
It-
speed
it
on
generated
generation,
all
right?
day today. Of course,
you
this
go.
morning, they tried to start it up, and it wouldn't start up, the big generator. Tried it 3 times, and John got in there and done something to one of the relays, made an adjustment or something and got it started back up and got it generating power again, so, so far so good.
Did it make enough money today to pay you? If not,
Not
you're in
after
trouble.
we get done negotiating.
Okay,
One more.
okay.
Flow at the sewer, at the treatment plant.
It was 457 today.
Ooh,
That's up.
Yeah, it is. It is. So we're gonna have to make another, and that happened in the last few feet of the lake coming up. So what we can do at this point is go back out and go back around and look and see if we can find anything else.
that's about another 80,000 gallons a day than what it was a week ago.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, 278
Yeah,
just a week or 10 days ago.
Yeah, we had 375 considered that new normal,
that's right.
so after that.
Yeah,
We'll let you have the rest of the day off.
thanks. That's gonna be a continuous battle.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. We're gonna have to stay on top of that, checking and trying to repair and fix to be able to keep those flows down.
Till we get rid of it.
Before we started trying to stay on top of it as much as we are, I mean, I seen a lot of numbers, 500,000 and 600,000 gallons daily
Right.
at the plant. So, we'll just keep pecking away at it, see what we can do.
We appreciate it.
Any more questions?
You're good.
Before I start away.
No, anytime we have
You
a,
don't wanna do the O&M while I'm up here, do you?
well, sure, yeah. Oh, that's
Thank you,
in
Dave.
Other
Thanks,
part,
Dave.
yeah.
Thanks.
All right, Dean Givens is going to give us a quick dredging update.
Last month, I updated the board on, that we were sending out, advertising for dredging contractors. We did end up having a mandatory meeting for all contractors on the 28th. Out of that, we were planning on having them have the RFPs back by the 17th. After talking with the contractors and stuff, they felt they needed a little more time, so we moved it to April the 27th. At 2 o'clock, I believe, is when the sealed bids are due. And we plan on, like I said in the last update, we plan on having this brought before you at your May meeting for you to decide on a contract.
And we had 12 companies show up for that.
Correct.
Wow, that's good. Your report here has working on repairing the pond next to the Lake Lure Landing. What is yet to be done on that, and what's the timeline?
Got an engineer working on it now. I'm just waiting on getting the numbers back. Odom Engineering is working on the spillway, and as soon as he gives me that back, then I can bid it to get it, a contractor in here to fix it and dredge it and get it back together. I really don't have a number on it or a timeline on it until I get that information back. We had planned on bringing it to you tonight, but I just haven't got the numbers and stuff back from the engineer yet.
Thank you, Dean.
We done? Thanks, John.
Thank you.
All right. Just also wanted to note that the Weed Patch Mountain Trail opening is scheduled for May 4th, so everybody please mark your calendars. There's more information that'll come out about that in a little while. Valerie, do we have a time for that set yet?
No, we don't.
Okay. So again, just mark your calendars for May 4th with more information to come.
I do have a time that Larry sent me an email this morning. I think it's 10:30 to 11. Larry Tchaikovsky sent me that.
Great, thank you.
They're sending out invitations, and also there will be published on the website a link that people can RSVP to, that if you're not on the invitation list, if you're not on the specific invitation list, it's still open to the public, and the public can attend, but they do need RSVPs. There will be a link on the website, the information that Larry provides to you, that they can RSVP to. And that's going to be at the King Ranch on May the 4th.
Thank you. So 10:30, May 4th, King Ranch. Wanted the board also to know that our auditor has approved the contract that you asked be reconsidered for $36,000. So that was signed and delivered. We also have Shannon, you want to give a quick update on Night Holloway and Spruce Hill, please?
Sure. Spruce Hill Road was the road, David secured the bids on the repair in the first 50 feet, David, was it? Which included installation of a culvert, ditching, and some paving. Is that right? Spruce Hill, that total was $6,900. There's a total of 24 lots up there. The town owns 10. We sent out 8 letters, and we had only 3 of those returned. So 5 of the lot owners did not sign a letter saying they would be willing to participate in the improvements for Spruce Hill Road. Let me go ahead and give an update on Night Holloway and then see what you want to do. Night Holloway, there's a total of 8 lots. Town owns 2 of those lots. We sent out 6 letters and we received 0 letters back. The total cost for the culvert repair was $12,000, and that was probably on the high side. Probably the contractor believes he possibly could do it for 10. Once he gets in there, he would know more. And cost per lot was $1,500. Again, we received no takers on the repair to the culvert. So letters went out, and those are the results.
How long ago did those go out, and how long did we wait for a response, or what kind of
It gave
system?
30 days for them to respond.
Okay, so, but that does not negate the fact that the repairs are still needed.
That's correct.
Any thoughts or discussions yet on staff as to any possibilities or new approaches?
Both of these are both private roads. They're not public roads.
Got it.
So the repairs we would make, or improvements we would make as a lot owner.
Right.
Not as the town repairing a public facility. If we repair a public facility, we have more authority to go in and actually do assessments for repairs. In this instance, we don't, because we're just a lot owner, and these are private, considered to be private facilities.
Are any of them, to the extent that they're safety factors, that the town might be able to go in and do the assessment under for safety reasons?
I would defer to a town attorney, but I don't believe so.
You're correct. I don't know of a way we can force participation.
So we will continue to wait to see if we receive any further responses. We might follow up with a second letter, just sitting here thinking about it, and send those out just to remind folks to send those in. And we'll, of course, put together some recommendation, I think, for you at the next meeting.
It might be a good idea to let the property owners who did respond affirmatively know who responded affirmatively, and they may have some contact. They may know those folks better than we do, and may have some influence over them.
We'll do that. We'll draft a new letter and see if we can facilitate a better
I may have
process.
seen the letter. If I did, I don't remember exactly the details, but is it explained in there that if the property owners do not agree to do this, the town is not going to do it? Did we explain that in that it's not, that it's a private road and we're not going to just step up and do it?
Or that we can't step up
That we
and do it.
can't.
Even if we wanted to, we couldn't.
I think in a second letter, we can make that clear. And
I
maybe
think it
that-
needs to be real clear, that they just don't assume that because we own 2 of the lots or 6 of the lots that we're going to accept the financial responsibility for it. Because we can't.
Right. So I think we can make that a little more clear the second round.
Okay.
So we're glad to do that.
Maybe even offer a face-to-face meeting with them, if they would like to have that, so they can ask questions.
Be
You know,
glad.
we could have, you could have a little meeting or something, whatever you think's best, but I think they really need to understand it ain't just gonna happen.
So noted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So, Mayor, that concludes my reports, unless you have anything else for me.
I do not, unless the other commissioners do. Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Well, wait a minute.
Well, yeah, our last meeting, or our March 8th special meeting, Ron reported that the Raleigh office would develop a proposed timeline regarding the sewer project and what we need to do, and I was wondering where we stand on getting that from Raleigh.
We have not received that timeline. We are still waiting on that. I know our engineer calls them regularly to see how far along they are with that. We expect it any time now.
Are we relying totally on the engineer, or are you contacting them as well?
No, I've left it up to the engineer, but I can certainly do that.
Okay, and I guess they copy you on whatever they sent, whatever he sends them?
I believe it's by phone, so I haven't seen any emails go back and forth, but I'll check.
Yeah, it'd probably be a good idea to have it committed to paper.
Right.
One other thing and I probably should have caught Shannon on this as well. We're going to send to planning and zoning to review the amount of land disturbance, so it's not just 10 feet by 10 feet. And wondering if that's been sent to planning and zoning for discussion.
Yeah, that was back, wow, yeah.
It has, and it's on our list,
Okay.
but we haven't got to it yet.
Okay, just want to make sure it's still alive.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon.
Just also, when we follow up, we were working on the sedimentation control regulations because of the state model. It changed, and we're going to weave that into that process. So
Also, I got you one more thing. What about our lighting and shield lighting process? I haven't seen it on utilities board window. Where does that stand?
It's on the list.
Okay, because they didn't have it on their agenda, so.
I've got a report on both of those issues in my report that's in your packet.
I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's move on to item 5 on the agenda, which is the council liaison reports and comments. And I would entertain any volunteers who would like to go first. Commissioner Cameron.
I'll go first on the utilities board, met last week. Russ Pitt spoke up and addressed the point broadband as far as our internet services. They greatly need people to sign up. They were looking for 50 people to sign up and pay a deposit. If you sign up and you can't get service, everything's totally refunded to you. Also, as part of their service, they'll allow you to actually 2 times in a 2-year period that you could put it on standby and not pay for it for up to a 3-month period. So if you were going to be out of town, but they greatly need to get people to sign up. Without those 50, they really don't have enough people participating. They have gone and applied for their federal funding to help them with the project. So I just would like to get everybody on one key to please sign up, and it's a no-risk type deal. If they can't serve you, they won't. Also, during the discussion, they received an update for the new low-pressure system, which is beginning, and we're looking at the design contract tonight. And then also, they've changed their meeting now to be bi-monthly instead of monthly. So that's my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Cameron.
You want to just go right down the line?
Yeah, let's go. Yeah.
The Lake Advisory Board met yesterday afternoon at 3:30 in this room. We continued discussion about, or we had a long discussion yesterday about the commercial boating model, how we determine how many commercial boats that we're allowing on the lake, and we're going to spend more time looking at that and studying that. That was initially done back in the early 2000s, and so we have records all the way back of how many of the different classes of boat permits that we've done each year. So we're going to be doing some work on that. The commercial model is full, and so everything else is not regulated necessarily by the commercial boating model, but the commercial boating model is full. So that's something that's going to need to be addressed. We also continue to discuss the priority for slip rentals at the town marina. Nothing decided there. And we talked about lowering the lake each year and the metrics for that, and a lot of discussion about seawalls and riprap and concrete walls, and a lot of good discussion. So we really would like to get to a point where we don't have to take the lake down any, other than if something has to be repaired on the dam. And there's a lot of options out there for
being able to repair walls. And one thing that we need to focus on, probably just consensus, is that we need to get away from, if we possibly can, concrete straight up and down walls and go more to riprap. So it'll stop the big bathtub effect that we have here on the lake that does a lot of damage. So that was discussed a lot, and of course you got a committee the size like we are, got a lot of opinions, but it's a good committee. A lot of those people have been on there 20 plus years, a couple of them. So it's a good committee, and they put in hard work, so I appreciate everything that they do and all the input we get from staff.
Good, thanks, John.
Well, mine will be very easy because we didn't have a zoning and planning meeting this past month, and I was out of town for the asset management board meeting. But Ron, you were there. I think you took some notes, and I think you said that the chairman sent you some comments as well that I don't have a copy of.
Right, I think primarily it focused on the sewer system, the low-pressure sewer system around the lake. And then I've already went blank on the second one, sorry. Do you have that?
Peninsula over here.
Oh, yes, the peninsula. They gave a great report, Dean. His staff, Clint, gave a great report on the peninsula, what the purpose of the peninsula is out there at the beach, and perhaps how that could be used better or perhaps taken up, and they're looking at options for that.
Thanks, John. Commissioner Weber?
The Board of Adjustment met and only had one case. It was a zoning variance, and it was approved. And that was dealing with the freezer over at Larkins, to where they needed to move it which had some effect on the grease trap and problems there. So they had to get a variance in order to move it, and that was granted. The Parks and Recreation Board met last Thursday. One of the primary things is what I already passed out about the grand opening of Weed Patch Mountain. But as a basic summary, and people don't realize, that all that started with Buffalo Creek Park with 200 acres in 2012. And then later we were granted the 1,300 acres, which is known as Weed Patch Mountain. Altogether, the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund, Conserving Carolina, RTP, altogether the monetary value of those donations and the work involved has added up to $1.125 million. So it's an amazing amount of money that's been spent there. We're getting ready to open that park. There's a grand total of 12 miles of trail now, 4 of it down in Buffalo Creek Park basically, with the loop, and then the rest up Weed Patch Mountain to Eagle Rock, and then an extension from it in the Chimney Rock Park area that goes on. So we're still working on some other things like the maintenance plan regarding that area, and we have the report already completed on that. The Parks and Recreation Board's going to be looking at that and working on adopting it officially. The Morse Park restrooms, which is obviously an item of concern for a lot of folks, something that's been needed for years. Our target completion date is June the 30th and has been all along. Right now, bids have gone out for RFP, or request for quotes, and we're having some problem getting enough contractors interested because they're all so busy. But we're moving on that. The project is, we're hoping to have construction beginning around April 30th and having it done by June the 30th. So that's still on track. Geese are starting to pair up. If you see them, let Lake Operations know, so the folks that go around and oil the eggs can find those nests, and if you know where a nest is, let them know so we can keep reducing that goose population. Maureen Bay announced that the Conserving Carolinas Conservation Celebration has been changed to August the 18th. Anybody that was scheduled or planning on going to that or attending it, it has been changed to August the 18th. And that's all I had.
Thank you, Commissioner Webner. Commissioner Kilby, you have additional report on the ABC board?
The ABC board met, regular meeting. At those meetings, we get the detailed numbers of the sales and so forth that go on, that we have for the month. So obviously, we're beginning to come back into the season, and I'll do my best. Next month, I'll try to bring some of those numbers, not so you can see how busy they are, and especially with the restaurant side of that of their supply. As you know, all the restaurants have to go to the ABC store to purchase all their product, and so it's pretty impressive with the number and the way all that does. So I guess it's probably the least known board that we have about what goes on. So maybe next month I'll try to do a little better and do a more detailed. The relocation of the ABC store is going to be item 8B, and so we'll hold any discussions about that until we get over to 8B for the strip center.
Okay. All right, any questions, anybody? Okay, good. Well, that concludes the council liaison reports and comments section. Item 5 moves us to item 6, which is public comment. And here, we take comments from the public. We have a sign-up sheet, but we take a last-minute call in a second. We would ask if you have a comment to come forward, state your name and address, and please limit your comments to no more than 5 minutes, if you would, please.
Pat Beatty, Memorial Highway. Just have a response to Stephen about Spruce Hill and safety. I believe there is a safety issue. My suggestion would be to call the DOT since they brought the issue to the town initially, because maybe the guy that was trying to scrape all the mud off the road the last time will also confirm that there is a safety issue.
Thank you.
Thank you for that input. Anyone else?
Okay, got it.
Want a last call for public comment? If not, we'll go ahead and move along. That brings us to the consent agenda. We have several items on there. We've removed one. As I recall, we moved that lower in the unfinished business. Do I have a motion for adoption of the consent agenda?
Okay. So moved.
So moved by Commissioner...
As amended.
As amended by Commissioner Weber. A second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Cameron seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that brings us to item number 8 on our agenda, unfinished business. The first item, A, is the 2018-23 capital improvements plan. And Ron, is
Sure.
something you can lead us through here
Yes, sir.
towards a motion?
All right, a draft of the 2018-2023 capital improvements plan was presented to the Board of Commissioners in February. At subsequent meetings, Town Council had the opportunity to discuss the CIP project summaries and their rankings. They held, of course, a public hearing on March 13th, and following that public hearing, several revisions were made to the document. As you know, our CIP document is a financial planning tool for us. It includes all of our major projects, equipment, and building needs. It has a value of greater than $5,000 and a life expectancy of over a year. So following any additional comments or changes made by the board, the CIP is presented for adoption. And the board has the updated or revised rankings in their packet, so I can answer any questions if you have any.
Well, we followed the public meeting on March the 13th with a special meeting on March 22nd, which that was the primary topic to rank those projects.
Yes,
and I just wanted to make that known to the public because we didn't do it after the public meeting that night. And I'm fine with it as it is now with that reorganized priority. and we discussed all those topics. So,
This is the order that we agreed on last time, I think.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
yeah, we had talked about one item at number 12, and that moved to 13 because of the addition of the one item we had moved up to fit into the thing, so. Yeah. I make a motion to approve it, approve the capital improvement plan program for 2018-2023 as presented.
I'll second that as presented.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion about the plan? I would just ask Ron, before we vote on it, the way this works then, as we move into the next year, our next fiscal year, these, pending the budget and the amount of operating funds that are allocated for capital project funding and the particular grants or other means of financing that we are able to obtain to support the projects in the list, then we go down the list in terms of funding until we run out of money, and which is generally well before we run out of items, right?
That's correct.
And then we put them on for next year or whatever.
That's right. And I should say we have over $17 million worth of projects. No way, of course, that all of that can be funded at one time. There's at least a recommended $1.5 million worth of property in year one, or I'm sorry, 1.5 million worth of projects in year one that are being recommended for funding. Out of those 28 or so projects, we're fortunate enough to get through about 14 or 15 maybe, and that's why it's so important that the board ranks those. And so what department heads will do is if their projects are higher in the rankings, they'll plug those numbers into that budget that'll be presented to you for first look in May.
So we have a second look at this and a second chance at the regular budget meetings.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to add, and I forgot this, I did make one proposed change to Ron in his office earlier this morning. Under the water and sewer fund page, the first item is sewer line replacement, and that's not what we're doing. We're looking at putting in a low-pressure sewer system. So I would say sewer system replacement as opposed to sewer line. We're not replacing that line in the lake, and I want people to understand that. This would be a whole new system outside the lake. So.
Can we change the nomenclature without?
Right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, that'd be fine. Thanks for, that's correct, and good to clarify. All right, if any further discussion, if there is none, then all those in favor on the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that brings us to item B, which is Resolution 1804-10E, which is the reactivating the renovation of the Commercial Center project at 2564 Memorial Highway, AKA the Strip Center, right? The future ABC store, whatever it's being called. So,
That's right.
Shannon, you're going to kind of take us through this. Shannon Baldwin has been is the project leader, I will say, on the town side of this, and he's got a group, one, working with him. And so, Shannon, tell us what's been going on here.
Just, sure. In brief, back in February, the board asked our department to see if we can help restart this process. So that's what we did. I have interviewed the architect that we used previously. Been on site with David Airwood, as was pointed out. I think we made a discovery relative to the culvert that's on site. And so the effort really has been to try to reboot this project so that we could bring it to completion this fiscal year, or this calendar year, I'm sorry. So that's the goal. So what we've done is that we have asked another architect to come in and meet with us, and then also we've asked a contractor to come meet with us who could help us value engineer the project. What we have found is that the project experienced a little bit of mission creep or scope creep in that it expanded beyond what the original intent was. So the previous architect basically was responding, I think, to an expanded scope, worked closely with the ABC board, and I think because of some of that dynamic, the town council, the ABC board, and the asset management board, there wasn't clean communication between the three stakeholder groups. And so what we're proposing in this resolution is that we go back to the original basic scope of work, that the ABC board be given 3,000 square feet of the existing building, which is approximately what they have now at the existing building. That we appoint a steering committee that is made up of those three stakeholder groups, which is town council, asset management group, and then also ABC board. And then you have town staff. So Ron and I will be members of that steering committee as well. And so as we move forward, similar to what we did at the process with Morse Park, which was a success, and similar to what we're doing now with the restrooms at the Welcome Center, this model mimics those two models. It keeps everyone apprised as we move forward, and this steering committee basically acts as a advisory body back to town council. Town council clearly stays in the driver's seat as we move this project forward. Attached to the resolution is a timeline. It gives you an idea of what workflow is like. Also attached are the agreements with Brady Tracus. I was saying Stakus all day. I'm stuck in that brain. So Brady Tracus, and then also Maple Leaf Design Build, which is a construction company. And then also what we found that having Sims Group, who did the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, engineering work the first time, is seemingly the same entity that we would go back with to work with this new architect. So what we're basically asking the board to do is to approve this resolution, which also approves the agreements with Brady Tracus, with Maple Leaf Design, and then built into the Brady Tracus agreement, they then would work with Sims Engineering to take care of the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing design elements. Again, so it's based on the original scope that we expanded, and we ended up with a set of drawings that moved the ABC store from 2 bays into about 25% of a 3rd bay, which gave them quite a bit more room than they have now. But we did look at the floor plan of the current ABC store. What we found was that there were some extra things in their 3,000 square feet that now they believe that if they create more of a multi-purpose type room that would consist of the conference room, the office, and the kitchen area all as one space, rather than having that divided out, that we can gain some efficiency by collapsing those uses into one room. So we did meet with Tony Broadfurer, who's the chair of the ABC board, as well as Woody Price, and so we discussed clearly that we're talking about 3,000 square feet, only 1/2 of that building and no more. We did discuss a little bit about upfit, and we think that we can resolve that, define that a little more clearly as we begin to develop a lease for that section of the building. I think that's it in general. The mayor has been working closely with me, as well as Commissioner Kilby, and also the town manager. So between the 4 of us, I think we may be able to answer most of your questions, if you have it.
Okay. Are we ready for questions, or do we have more?
I also would say this, that part of this process is having the contractor for the $750 work closely with the designer. We're going to work up a budget, and once that budget is completed, we're going to bring that back to you, so you can see what those costs are going to be, and then make a decision about adding additional funds to what we have remaining. What we have right now is approximately $155,000. And so that's all we have left in the original budget that was created for this project. So be glad to answer any questions. One of the other things, I just want to throw this in there, is that when we had a transition of town managers, that's a big change. And when those things usually take place, sometimes you just don't get communication exactly the way you need it. I don't think we're trying to find fault. We're just saying that communication maybe should have been a little better, and maybe council wasn't involved like perhaps maybe it should have been in that process.
Speaking of that communication, I'd spoken with the mayor about it. On these engineers, I want to be sure that they plan on reusing as much as possible. There's an existing 400 amp service in there that was actually spec'd to be a new 400 amp service on the old drawings. We want them to reuse. Most of that facility is reusable. Of the air handlers, you only have one that's an issue or a problem. And since we're not doing the other two bays, one could be borrowed to the next. But we need to sit down with these guys, and especially the engineering group, and say, look, reuse what we've got, not put out a Cadillac like they did on the previous ones.
I can assure you from our discussions and our meetings we had, they understand that we're not driving a Cadillac. That's for sure. I mean, the attention given by the new design team and by the contractor that we have that we're using as a consultant, they understand. And even in our first meeting, if they got out of hand, the guy that the consultant, the contractor brought them back in, so well, there's nothing wrong with what we got, we can make all that work. So I feel really good about the handle that we've got on this thing and where it's gonna. Would you agree, Shannon?
I do.
I appreciate the help on that. The only other notation I've got is in your section 6 on this resolution. You've got 12 and we need 15 on your revised.
Yeah, just a little bit of background. I've been involved in that with Shannon, and what came about, the circumstances were we received an initial letter proposal from Brady Tracus, and in it they provided to us their fee estimate, or not to exceed fee, for their architectural services, and that included services that, it's important in the concept stage, in the contract document preparation stage, and in the bidding and construction administration inspection stage. And so we felt it was a complete package for architectural services, but it did not include the MEP, the mechanical, electrical, plumbing services, which are the support services to that. And then subsequently we received a copy of a second proposal that was sent to Brady Tracus by Sims, and they actually had another one that was more expensive, and so that was an addition to the Brady Tracus fee. So we want there to be one contract, one design contract, and one only, Brady Tracus, and Brady Tracus will control the activity of the engineer sub and the budget within their own budget, and so we want one not to exceed number, and that's where we had to kind of do a little wordsmithing. I've proposed on the section 6 to basically allow, and I can read this, to where the town council authorizes the town manager to execute a professional service agreement with Brady Tracus Architecture for architectural services as defined in their April 2nd, 2018 letter proposal, which will be attachment C to the resolution, and including additional sub-consultant services for mechanical, electrical, and plumbing design to be provided to Brady Tracus Architecture by Sims Group as defined in the Sims Group April 6, 2018 letter to Brady Tracus, which is also attached as attachment E, and that this agreement shall have a not to exceed fee limit of $15,000 to include all services provided by Brady Tracus Architecture on this project. So if we can just revise that in the Article 6.
Yep.
And then one other minor addition. Our group feels strongly that as part of the design process and kind of integral with it, we should be working and executing a lease with the ABC store that will memorialize the specific architectural and other improvements that would be made to the building. So I propose that we would add that as an additional bullet to section 2. So with those two changes, I'm ready to go forward with it.
Well, I'm prepared to make a motion too, but you're in your email, you're recommending section 2 be modified, adding one bullet, execute a long-term lease for the ABC store occupancy. And then under section 6, you're revising it to include attachment E, which is the Sims document. And you're also recommending the not to exceed amount of 15,000. With those amendments to section 2 and 6, I'm prepared to make a motion to approve resolution 18-04-10E. And we also need to mark attachment C, D, and E. They're not marked. A and B are marked, and since they're going to be a permanent part of this resolution, they need to be marked accordingly.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so you would make that motion?
I already did.
Commissioner Weber did.
I did.
All right. We have a second?
Yep, I'll second it.
Commissioner Cameron seconds. Is there any further discussion on that? John's very quiet. The Johnston. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Now, I want to, for clarity's sake, this in no way approves any actual work. This is only design and engineering and
Correct.
such. Now, I noticed in Shannon's briefing there, memo, the first portion of it is what bothers me quite a bit. And that's where previous architect developed architectural drawings for the building that do not reflect the project scope discussed by the Asset Management Board that served as the basis for the budget that was used by the Asset Management Board to develop the project. And they developed architectural drawings that include extensive improvements to both the building interior and exterior that were not envisioned by the Asset Management Board. Now, is there any recourse we have on recovering that money? Since the individual that we paid to do that job did not do the job that according to the project scope.
You talking about the architect?
Yes.
We need to,
Possibly, I'd have to look.
we would need to talk with
I'm
William.
learning about it more or less for the first time.
I think the issue that we
Okay, I
saw
would add-
was they weren't getting consistent
I understand.
and direction from,
They were getting, so at some point, without any approval from this body, it seems like the direction shifted and was coming more from the ABC board rather than the authority that could approve it. And so I talked with Rick about this and how it got so inflated, and he said, well, I just went in there, was doing what they said to do. And I talked to them, they said, well, he come in and he measuring all the stuff in the old store, we didn't need that. So I think there's some of both. I don't,
You mean they being the ABC board?
Rick came in, said, they said the ABC board said he was coming in and doing a lot of measurements in the existing store that wasn't part of what was required. And I don't know, maybe he needed that for some reason, and that's just what they
Well,
told me. So at any rate, I think that, I think that was certainly a full price. I'll be as kind as I can, but after talking with him and talking with them, I can kind of see how it ran off the rails a little bit there as we were kind of between town managers at the time. So,
Well,
it wasn't a strong hand.
If the problem lies in we failed somehow, or he failed, we need to look at that and make sure, but if it's, and if we did fail, then it's lessons learned on our part, and we improve. And we've already got an improvement over what you've done here, Shannon, and I appreciate that, because this is the kind of oversight that is needed. If there's any method of recouping any of that money because we didn't get what the project scope called for, then that's something we need to look at.
I think it's key to find out, at one point, he became aware of what our budget was, because we should establish the budget for that thing before we bought it.
Yep.
And I can't imagine anyone hiring the architect without giving them a copy of the town's resolution or the budget that went with it. So that might be a good place to start, to see when he was made aware of what our budget was.
I'll follow up with Mr. Morgan on that.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think that probably would be the best way to handle that.
Yeah.
Let me continue to pursue what you've asked me to do, and then the other items that I think town manager and town attorney would be appropriate for that piece.
Yeah, I hope the rest of the board would agree with me that getting the thing going and moving forward on it is the #1 priority.
Staying on the schedule.
Well, and a comment to make too is that, you know, in our ABC board meetings, there's full understanding now
Yeah.
of the scope and where we're going, and our other committee, that there's a full understanding about what's going to happen, what can happen, what was agreed to on the original scope, and the oversight that's going to be given to it.
And from an outside but inside perspective, I would say that politically, that this board is singing off the same sheet of music. Certainly, I think that's what we're seeing now. Whereas before, I think there was a little bit of tension, and I think that has been resolved, and I think we're moving in the right direction now.
Yeah.
And when I say tension, I just mean to move or not to move. We know we had to go back and address that a couple of different times, but I think all that has been resolved now.
Good.
So the way forward then is, as soon as tomorrow, we will give Brady Tracus a kind of a revised not-to-exceed number and make whatever modifications are necessary to a letter proposal, maybe just have them redraft it with the 15, and then we'll give them the notice to proceed immediately, right?
That's exactly right. And I think underscoring what Commissioner Cameron has pointed out is that anything on the inside that can be reused, repurposed, we want to make sure we can do that when we speak with Brady Tracus.
And we should probably have some kind of a pre-design concept, a follow-up meeting on that, in that regard, right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, and that, now we have, we'll take up item C from the consent agenda, which is the Rumbling Bald Resort Concession Agreement. And I believe Commissioner Weber has asked that to be moved, so.
Sure. Yeah, I read this thing thoroughly, and I was told that Rumbling Bald accepted the agreement and signed off on it.
That's correct.
But I have some changes. And one of them, of course, is going to have to be the date accordingly, at the very beginning and at the end of the document. The last whereas under the agreement, where it says, whereas RBR has the right to use the waters, that shouldn't say that, in my opinion. It should, RBR has extended the privilege of using the waters of Lake Lure for the purpose of operating a scenic passenger boat ride. It's been long determined that nobody has a right to do anything on the lake or build any structures or make any use of it. It's all a privilege since the town owns the lake. The next page under item 4, it says, last sentence, that all commercial operators shall complete successfully an annual Marine Commission approved boating safety class. There is not one that the Marine Commission has approved to my knowledge. So we're putting things in these documents that don't exist as far as I'm concerned or aware of. That needs to probably go to the Lake Advisory Board with Dean getting that boating safety class recommended for approval and then to the Marine Commission for approval. Under tour boat operations, page 11, or paragraph 11, I'm sorry. There are no page numbers. The fourth paragraph under tour boat operations, second line, RBR will establish and publish a telephone number where comments about the tour boat's operation can be reported. We have no designated place that this number is published. Nothing that I know of yet has been discussed on where it's published, how people can find it, know about it, in order to facilitate any kind of comments, complaints, recommendations, etc. The next paragraph is the same document, the Lake Lure Tours operation document that I spoke about at the retreat. That is just something that was generated one day and started being passed out. It's never been approved by the Lake Advisory Board or recommended for approval, and it should be made part of an appendix to the lake use regulations if it's going to be the policy that we use as a basis on concession agreements. The next page, item 13, RBR shall provide the town with a copy of their safety operations policy. It should probably indicate where that's supposed to be, who it's supposed to be provided to in the town. I assume it would go to the town manager, where it's going to be on file for anybody that might want to review it. The RBR shall, next paragraph, RBR shall follow the town's policies and procedures for media contact. I don't know where that's published or who knows of it. Do we even have a policy? I've never heard of one that we had or have seen one. Ron tells me, yes, we have one. So that needs to be available. The paragraph 15, all the insurance information, the documents, the copies of documents, those need to be made available to us. And no work, service, or operation shall be performed until that's been furnished. And then I actually had a couple of pages with no highlighting. Paragraph 23, of course, we'd have to change the dates accordingly. I made a note under the concession fees. Yes, we offered 10% for the first year, 15% across the board thereafter for the remainder of the 5-year term. And that was as a counteroffer, and I understand that was accepted. But we should have a list of RBR's published fees, just like we have with Lake Lure Tours. We know what their fees are that they charge throughout the year. And if they change them for the next year, then we're always made aware of that. Then a simple format issue on the last page. We're talking about Fairfield Mountains doing business, Rumbling Bald, and the town of Lake Lure respectively, which means in order, and they're in reverse. So that just needs to be fixed. So I'm not ready to necessarily approve this without knowing, well, guarantee that all of that will be fixed. I would make a recommendation or a motion to approve it and be properly addressed. So
much of that information will come in after the agreement's signed. We can make the wording changes. That won't be a problem. If you'll recall that the board said no permits would be issued without this in place, I'd like to ask the board go ahead and with these slight changes, go ahead and approve this agreement so that Rumbling Bald's not held up for extra time.
But we need to take it back to them to make sure they accept it with those changes.
These are, so I'm certain they will. Some of this language was picked up from the original agreement, so it's not anything that's new. So that can easily be changed to match our style.
Well, the point is what's there picked up from the other agreement should be corrected accordingly. The other agreement, yes, it's there, it's in force, and we have to fix that later, but this stuff is one to be done. We've got 2 more that are following after this one. They will be different in some ways because they're based on in kind as opposed to actual revenue. So it's going to be a concession for a service as opposed to the ticket price. But we need to fix it now while we're doing it.
Can we make a motion that we approve the proposal with Commissioner Weber's final perusal of this thing and that the changes have been made?
Yeah, I just said I was willing to do that.
And then let them go ahead and get their permits. But they're moving this weekend. Yeah.
I think, you know,
They're already up.
I mean, well, I don't think they have an option, but if they want to operate, they're going to accept what we say that we're going to.
Yeah, I didn't see anything in here that would really change their operating.
Didn't change the meat of it.
No, it's just where certain things are, who has them, how to act something, who knows it, you know, that kind of information.
I'll make a motion then that we go ahead and accept the agreement. Let them get their permits now, subject to, the agreement subject to Stephen's recommendations.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion and second. Any further discussion about that? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Ron will take care of that. All right, that brings us to new business. And the first item of new business is a resolution. That is Resolution 1804-10B to allow the town of Lake Lure employees to participate in the North Carolina 457 plan for public employees. Ron, is that something you're going to?
I can cover it quickly and may tag team with Anita here.
Anita's here.
That's right, she's the expert.
She is, yeah.
The state of North Carolina has established a public employee deferred compensation plan, 457, for public employees. If approved, employees will have the opportunity to contribute a portion of their current match to the 457 plan or the 401k plan, which is currently in place. I think it's important to realize that this does not cost the town any additional money. The 5% match that you give to employees will stay the same. The employee now just has the choice of which plan to put it into. So again, this expands our options, the way I understand it. So Anita, is that?
Anita, you have something?
The plan that we've got right now, we've got a 457 in place, but it's not through the state. If we have the 401k and the 457 through the state, I don't have to manually, I don't have to have 2 companies come in trying to take care of the plans. Actually, on the 457 we got right now, we only have 1 employee that's participating, and I think it's because we don't have anybody really coming in and supporting it. I have to manually run a report at the end of the month, write a manual check and send in the payment for that 1 employee. With the 457 through the state and the 401k, I can do everything, upload it and send it to the state immediately.
So it simplifies your work effort, doesn't cost the town any more,
That's
and
right.
gives the employees a better choice or more choices for retirement.
That's right.
Win-win as far as I'm concerned.
I just had to do it through a resolution for it to
Okay.
go through.
All right. Thank you, Anita. Is there a motion then to adopt this?
I'll make the motion to adopt the 1804-10B to allow the town of Lake Lure employees to participate in the North Carolina 457 plan for public employees.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Kilby, Commissioner Kilby. Any other discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That brings us to -11, adding an alternative position and an at-will provision for the Parks and Recreation Board. Ron?
All right.
Commissioner Weber's going to handle this.
Oh, Commissioner
Yeah,
Webb.
well, Parks and Rec Board, a couple of months back, we recommended that they discuss an alternate member, and they did, and they recommended yes to bring that back. Their original enabling resolution had an alternate member position. Somewhere along the way, that was deleted and by resolution, so now we're bringing it back. This also adds the at-will clause at the end of the document. As you recall, in December, we had the unfortunate task of removing a board member based on the Coates canons and the law. It was recommended that, of course, any of these boards that are not established by law, including this at-will clause. And basically, it says that the Park and Recreation Board members serve at the pleasure and will of Town Council and may be removed for cause or for no reason at all. And that's almost verbatim out of the Coates canons. We adopt this same thing for all the enabling resolutions for all of the boards that are formed by resolution and not by law.
Very good.
And I believe our attorney's seen this, and have you not, sir?
Yes, I have. It's fine.
And okay. So,
All right.
Well, you wanted the second bullet on it also from Mo Bay.
No, that's a separate
later.
action.
Got to do a separate action?
That's a separate action to appoint a board member. That's outside the resolution.
Okay.
So-
Just second dot earlier.
Right, yeah. I make a motion, we adopt resolution number 18-04-10C, amending the resolution 00-01-11, establishing a Parks and Recreation Board, amending section 1 members and adding a new section 2 board appointments.
Very good. Is there a second?
Second that.
Second to Commissioner Kilby. Any other discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that brings us then to item C, which
No.
is...
No, excuse me.
I'm sorry?
The
You want to do the
second,
appointment?
but yeah, the
Jump to
appointment.
that? Okay.
Right.
All right.
As a follow-on, of course, we had an application from Maureen Bay, as an alternate member for the Parks and Recreation Board. We've received no others, even though we have announced it a couple of times. The Parks and Recreation Board discussed her as filling that position and recommend that she be appointed. So I'd like to make that recommendation that we appoint Mo Bay as the alternate member for the Parks and Recreation Board.
Very good. Second to that?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Moore, second that. Any other discussion? I think that's a good appointment. I see Ms. Bay in the audience. Thank you. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, then that brings us to item C, Resolution 180410D, recognizing and encouraging participation in Wildfire Community Preparedness Day, which is on May 5th of 2018. And I believe Fire Chief Morgan is going to take us through that.
I thought he already retired. He hung around.
Day ain't
for a
over
few more
yet.
days. So you should have it in front of you, our proposed resolution, and this is something we've been working together with the village of Chimney Rock, kind of since the Party Rock Fire. And if you remember, one of our goals this year was to investigate becoming a Firewise community, which is a nationally recognized program. We've been working with Chimney Rock on that process. They're a little bit ahead of us this time. This is something that we're wanting to do to adopt this resolution so that we can bring awareness to the communities of Lake Lure. Chimney Rock hopefully will adopt the same resolution at their meeting and basically just try to get people involved and keep it in the forefront so that we don't forget the Party Rock Fire and what can happen in our community. And at this point, we're basically just asking for support to promote this program and then hopefully continue this into a Firewise program throughout the community eventually.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Comments on that? Anything? Thank you. And I presume the awareness will have some form of communication program, Valerie, that we'll do to get this word out? Yeah.
We have flyers, we have posters. I've been working with Barbara Molesky and Amy Wald, and have some, Chimney Rock has a banner up already. We have one on order, and so we're working toward promoting it through Facebook, website, with Valerie's help.
Good. Well, thanks, Ron. I think it's a great program. Okay, someone want to offer a motion?
Sure. I'll make the motion, if I get the right place here. Where'd it go? Okay, right here, to adopt ordinance 180410D for recognizing and encouraging participation in the Wildfire Community Preparedness Day on May 5th, 2018.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Moore. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, moving right along to item number D, which is proposed amendments to Title VI, Licensing and Regulation, Chapter 61. This is the peddlers. This is of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Lake Lure. Let's see, that is, Ron, you gonna?
I was going to say, if you're getting tired of Commissioner Weber, I'll start this one, or
Yeah, go
we'll let
ahead.
him jump in there.
No,
It started a couple hours ago.
Actually, this request did come from Commissioner Weber. He requested that staff review the peddler's ordinance requirements to Chapter 61, to determine if an exemption could be provided to the Friends of Lake Lure Flowering Bridge in order for them to sell their flowering bridge-related items. Just as a reminder, it's a volunteer 501c3 nonprofit organization. We did find several similar ordinances that allowed exemptions, and so we have prepared a draft for the board's consideration. While we were doing that, we also discovered some changes that were recommended to be made to keep us current with state law changes that were done some years ago with respect to religious and social, political, social and religious organizations. So we've made those at the same time as well.
Good job, Steve.
The reason this came about, of course, is that everyone knows the Flowering Bridge is operating from a town asset, the bridge, under the state-approved preservation plan. And them being a nonprofit, they only have certain ways they can raise their money. And the more money they raise means the less money the town has to contribute to that preservation. So it's a win-win for them to be able to sell Flowering Bridge-related items from the Flowering Bridge with no inhibitors. One question I had on the ordinance is, wonder if Mr. Morgan, most ordinances are usually approved as to form by the town attorney, and I'm wondering, had you reviewed this for that? Because there used to be a signature block approved as to form, and there's nothing on this one, so.
I've reviewed it, and I'm happy to sign it. I signed 2 earlier ones
Okay.
tonight.
Yeah.
Then, left off.
Yeah, I recommend that be added, and based on that, I'll make a motion that we approve, or we adopt ordinance 18-04-10, amending Chapter 61, Peddlers of the Code of Ordinances for the Town of Lake Lure.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Cameron seconds that motion. Or is there any further discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, brings us to item E. And this item deals with a request for qualifications, or RFQ, to renovate the Lake Lure Dam and appurtenant infrastructure. And I guess, Ron, would you take us through this to the recommended motion?
Okay. With it.
Well, I would start out just by addressing that deadline. And I know at least one other commissioner has also expressed a little bit of concern. My goal has been to get this project going sooner than later, a sense of urgency, but, we need to be careful that we don't, overextend or, and I think this deadline of May 11th may be a little ambitious, and I say that from the standpoint that I expect, because this is a major civil infrastructure project, I expect when we put this out for RFQ, that we will not only receive a response from Dr. Marks, but we are likely to receive responses from multiple national firms who specialize or have divisions that specialize in this type of work. And this is such a critical project for us, and not that we simply are not satisfied with the work that Dr. Marks has done, but I think this is an opportunity maybe in addition, perhaps, to Dr. Marks, to bring some other resources to the table. Might be a healthy thing, which typically involves, in this area, teaming arrangements where firms get together, and that doesn't happen immediately. And so to provide a little bit more time, for that process to occur, and we could encourage that to occur, I think maybe extending this out to something more like June 1st or so.
Well, my concern wasn't the deadline for the RFQ.
Oh, okay.
My concern was the timeline for the 4 phases,
Okay.
where we're begin design of phase 1 construction project June. I think that's unrealistic. If we're going to receive the RFPs May the 11th, then we review them and then select the best one. Then we negotiate the contract, and when we negotiate the contract, that's got to come back to the council meeting for approval.
Yes, sir.
So if you don't get that negotiated prior to the June council meeting, it's going to be at least July. So I just think the June 18 is just a little, unrealistic to begin that. So
That could be as well. And particularly if we delay the submittal a little bit longer, that just makes that a little more tight.
right,
What do you
and
think?
so I wasn't. My concern again was not the
Not
deadline for the
actual- yeah.
RFQ.
Well,
No,
we had parallel concerns.
and
Call on your engineering expertise. What do you think is appropriate time or amount of time to give them to get their RFQs in?
To get the RFQs in, we would advertise this very quickly, I would assume, Ron. We can get this, it's done. We can get this out this week if we make a minor change like that to July and just push the dates out a month. So I expect that we'll be able to publish this week, and I think that gives us over 45 days of time for them to respond to an RFQ. Most of the information we're going to get is canned information, targeted to our project, so that's not uncommon at all. I mean, I've had as an engineer to respond in a lot less time than 45 days, but I think this teaming thing may take a little bit.
So you're
if we push it.
suggesting we change May the 11th to what date?
June 1st, that's a Friday.
yeah, I'm fine with that.
You good with that? Yeah.
The other change I had was at the very beginning, Lake Lure Dam design and construction history. It's a small thing, but let's not appear ignorant. Dr. Lucius B. Morse, not Morris, was the founder of this town.
Yes.
So let's make sure we get that right in this RFQ.
All right, let's get that, yeah.
Now, as we move forward through this, personally, I don't have a problem with holding special meetings if we need to hear from these folks or do whatever we need to do to move this project right along.
I agree.
I guess everybody's good with that.
It's important.
Yeah, and just remember, this is a two-prong approach. We've got one, which is construction, the RFQ, the RFP.
Right.
But the second one, remember, is financing, and we cannot get ahead of the LGC, which it will require LGC approval. So both of those tracks have to move roughly parallel. And so, the approval of your engineering agreement may also hinge on the approval of your financing through LGC.
Are they generally right on top of, they understand
They understand, but they operate at the beat of their own drum. And so what we need to do is just make sure that we meet their qualifications. And in fact, Sam and I just finished meeting with a team, when was it, last week, Thursday maybe. So we've sat through the first part of this, and Sam is developing a finance proposal for y'all to take a look at.
Yeah, and I did talk to Sam about this and the timing of financing, the need for that. If we self-fund the engineering, first phase, engineering design, are we still under the thumb of the,
legal government?
that they would have to approve
Well,
that?
the complete project, they would have to approve the financing for, which includes engineering. We can't break up a project into pieces to avoid the bidding laws, is really what it means. So it would all be included.
Because we do have the funds available in the
Right.
the reserve fund from this engineering component. I think it's at around 6 to 8% for a large project like this is probably going to be very affordable for us to do without a loan or a
And maybe
bond or a-
what we could do is offer to, I mean, the construction, we might pay through a loan, and the engineering we might do in-house, so we would just have to see,
Yeah,
So-
the timing, the engineering, if you, like you said, self-funded, it wouldn't be part of the application. So we can separate that from the construction.
Does it still have to go through the league? If we self-fund?
If we self-fund, no, sir. No, any borrowing of money would have to be approved by LGC.
Has it been firmly decided that revenue bonds are not an option?
Not firmly decided, but it was strongly suggested that we would not pursue revenue bonds.
Was that a nodding in agreement or not?
He says it's final, yes.
Yes,
He's
we're
worked
not
with
going to
them.
do this.
Yeah, he's the finance guy, and he's worked with them, right? He kind of knows where they are. when they-
Our option is basically installment purchase,
Okay.
which is difficult because it's a dam repair, not a renovation or expansion, or we're not purchasing anything, so
Yeah.
what are we gonna pledge for that $5 million loan? So that's the trick.
Okay.
Okay.
And they don't, I briefly talked to the LGC, I'll make this quick.
No, this is important. Take the
Yeah, it is very.
They normally don't approve projects where you can wrap another project in it. To make it more acceptable for banks, maybe if we have like a town hall renovation, if we could wrap that into it and use town hall as collateral.
Excuse me, it's difficult to hear him.
That might be an option. They said they don't approve that normally, but in this circumstance, they would approve that. The banks would like that. We could use the dam as itself as a collateralization, but they're not into owning land. And I think the wastewater treatment plant is on that track. We could move, take that part out, so, yeah. But they would prefer, the banks would prefer us to wrap a project in there as a pledge.
Okay, so a minor renovation to this building coupled with our more expensive renovation to the dam, package those together and get a loan on the total. And
Right.
They're looking at their collateral, they don't care where the money goes, which how much you want.
That's right, and the LGC, they would approve that for a special case that we have.
But they would need something of collateral worth $4 to $5 million.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what a minor renovation would be. Do we?
Would the fire department count, do you think, or is that too small? The renovation to the fire department?
Yeah, I need to find, is it a percentage of the loan, or, how much would that
This building's
repair?
worth a lot more than the fire department.
Right.
When do you think you'll have the final report on that and your research?
Well, I did give you a report last week.
I got the email, yeah.
As soon as I talked with the LGC and the banks.
2 weeks?
Oh, I've got to call in. I should get something from them this week, tomorrow, hopefully. The challenge is that, and Ron and I ran the numbers of a $5 million loan for 20 years. Their payments are around $350,000 a year. We don't generate that. We also have an expense of operating. So, we got to come up with about $250,000 a year, which is equivalent to 3-cent tax increase. So,
What's the term of the loan?
20 years.
20 years?
Mm-hmm.
any chance of getting that to go out further?
They normally, LGC normally does not approve anything beyond 20 years. I don't know if they would be receptive in anything. They might.
I sent all of the commissioners an email about the infrastructure and the link and all that, and I sent it to you too. I don't know if you've discussed that with Sam. I didn't discuss that with him. I'm wondering if there's anything that might be available from it in the way of grants. That's a new thing that's popped up, to my knowledge. And so I was wondering if you could get with him, discuss that, show him all that information, and check that out too.
Like I said, there's
as well.
several things that we'll have to follow up on and get that report prepared for you.
Important stuff.
But again, we just want to make sure you all realize this is running parallel.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it.
And it would be nice, though, if we could spring the engineering loose while we're working on the construction and financing. And the other thing is, that I had made this request before, that we look at incremental financing. Because we don't know in a year if we're going to see a big infrastructure package come out. Maybe, you know, a program like that for rural communities with big infrastructure needs. So just to keep in mind when we go forward. Now, the other thing that I talked to Sam about was, you know, as we move forward with the dam, not that it wasn't an important thing for us before, but it becomes even more important now, is the electric generation revenues from that dam. And Sam has shared with me that he receives each month, generally very soon after, within a week or so after the close of the actual reporting month, which is not the calendar month, but a period.
21st of the month.
He receives a report from Duke that details the generation for the prior month and identifies the number of kilowatt hours in the peak and off-peak and the capacity credit and the deductions and so forth. And I think that would be important information for us to be seeing and monitoring on a regular basis. So maybe, Ron, if you would kind of get those reports into our monthly packets, that would be good for us.
Yeah, I can include that in our reports.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I'd like to move that we issue the request for qualifications for the hydroelectric dam project with the two amendments, or three amendments presented, which is the deadline of June the 1st as opposed to May 11th, and the correction of Morris to Morse, and the June 2018 to July 2018.
Okay, I think that covers it. That's the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Cameron seconds that. Any other discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to item F, which also relates to the dam, and this is a service contract for the preparation of an operations, maintenance, and inspection plan. Again, Ron, I want to just briefly go over why we need this and what we're...
Certainly. David can tag team with me if I say something incorrectly, but
I see David's on.
the OMI plan for the dam was part of the conclusions and recommendations from the Phase 1 and Phase 2 safety inspection report by Dr. Marks. Based on the condition of the dam, the town was encouraged to complete the OMI plan as soon as possible. We have received a proposal from Dr. Marks in the amount of $2,550 to complete that plan. There were actually two components of this plan. One was the OMI plan for the dam, and the second was for the hydroelectric part of the dam. We are waiting for a proposal from Charlie Merrick on the OMI for the hydroelectric, so that is not in your packet. Tonight, we're just asking you to go ahead and move forward with the dam OMI plan.
So, under the table of contents proposed, Chapter 5, that would be from Dr. Marks or from Charlie Merrick, which is the hydroelectric. Is he taking what Merrick provides us and adds to his?
He may be. I don't know for sure. There are two separate OMI plans.
Two separate OMI plans, and who's going to be the head proponent to mesh those two and make it one plan?
It actually will be two totally separate plans. When I talked to Dr. Marks about his, he said there would be a few things that he touched base on the hydro plant. But his main objective was the dam, you know, what to look for, what to check, what to monitor, and everything to do with the dam itself. And Charlie's would actually be on the hydro units themselves. So it would be two totally separate.
So 5 is just general facilities, not the actual equipment or operation.
Okay, and of course, if everyone recalls from the Phase 2 of the dam report, there's also now a need for the emergency section. And at first, I didn't notice that in here, but under special chapter, emergency situations and conditions, and the modified OMI plan activation. And I assume that that's going to be part of this report, of course, special chapter, but that will then be integrated as an annex into our new emergency plan, which is being prepared. Should be, in my opinion.
I think you're right.
Get all the emergency stuff in one spot. But during the discussion on that, I think that was at our December or our March 22nd special meeting, brought out the fact that these plans were approved by a staff member without authority. And what I requested was, and what I said, I believe, was we stop work on them. Find out how much work Merrick has done, how much work Dr. Marks has done, how much we owe them thus far, and then how much more they're going to charge us to complete the work. All right, we now have Dr. Marks' figure for completion of the work. What kind of bills did we have for what was already done, or was anything already done? Maybe the report came out and it wasn't time enough for them to really devote any work to it.
Right, and I don't think, other than Dr. Marks actually had some time investigating, but after talking to Dr. Marks and letting him know that this was started without the board's approval, you know, it was not going to go any further until the board approved it. And he said he understood it and didn't realize that he was going about it in the wrong way. He ceased work, and he came back with his proposal for exactly the amount that he had billed to do the tank, and not a penny more.
Right.
And so that's what this.
And we have not
proposal
paid Dr.
reflects
Marks.
is actually what he had already billed for.
So this amount includes what was done and what is to be done?
That's correct.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
All right, thank you.
That will be total.
And I also understood that there was another loop that needed to be closed with Mr. Merrick.
Yes.
For years, he's been billed the town for actions, and there's never been a breakdown. We've never insisted on such a breakdown or detail, and we're fixing that.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
It is fixed.
good.
They should not be anything billed to the town of Lakewood that has not been pre-approved through me and through Donnie and through Sam.
And Ron.
Before an invoice comes in here. Yes, that has all been addressed.
Thank you.
Good.
That addressed my concerns.
All right. So, do we have a motion then to?
I'll make the motion that we approve the engineering services with Mark Enterprises of North Carolina in the amount not to exceed $2,550, and to authorize the town manager to execute the contract.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. That brings us to item G, and this is a proposed engineering services agreement with Brown Engineering in regards to the low-pressure sewer system. Ron, are you going to deal with this?
Yes, sir. As you know, we've taken some time to look at alternatives for the 19-mile sewer interconnect pipeline to Spindale. Following a reassessment of that project, the board voted on March 8th to pursue a low-pressure sewer system project around the lake. Part of the loan requirement for building a new system will mean that engineering has to move quickly, and we're talking 10 to 12 months, with construction likely taking another 2 years following that. In order to accomplish this, the board has been asked by the state to amend the Green Line project scope of services with Brown Consultants to provide engineering work associated with a low-pressure system. The proposed fees are in the packet. Y'all are welcome to take a look at it. As noted, just for the board, the additional cost of this project in engineering is roughly about $795,000. For all practical purposes, the Green Line engineering in the amount of $1.7 million was just about completed. We had already spent about $1.1 million on that project. The balance remaining is $654,000. So of the low-pressure system budget of $1.45, that again is about $795,000 that will be required for funding. Now, it's also important to note that, again, we have received the $12.5 million, $500,000 principal forgiveness loan through the state, and so this money is part of that loan package, and we are hopeful that the full amount of the 1.1 that we have already sent will be reimbursed, but we cannot get confirmation of that until we apply for those funds. And so that sort of brings you up to speed, and what we are asking for tonight is to approve amendment number 2 to the Green Line Regional Sewer Interconnection Project to get Brown Consultants moving on the low pressure system.
Is anybody looking over these fees as far as what we're looking at? I'm looking here permitting. Why in the world
These
would,
are big numbers.
why in the world would permitting on the previous job be $139,000, not counting this another $95,000 for permitting? What are you permitting that costs these kind of numbers?
Yeah.
I mean,
What?
I'll
I had
be
the
honest.
same question on loan administration. Why are we shelling out $25,000 more on loan than the loan's already been approved for the whole thing, and we were already told by the state we could use that loan for this?
Right, I'm just,
Here's what I recommended, because I had the exact
I've got
same
heartburn
concerns,
on this.
and
Yeah.
this is, you know, to call this spreadsheet a scope of services would be a mistake. It's not. It's basically a budget breakdown. A scope of services that we should be seeing and responding to should have a detailed discussion and narrative of the specific tasks that are going to be performed and the deliverables that are going to be output to us as a client. And then along with that, once that, and that's in detail, a scope like this could be 40 or 50 pages long.
right.
And then along with that, I think what's customary and what we ought to require from Brown Engineering is a detailed breakdown by task of the budget that shows the estimated man-hours by category and position, the hourly billing rates for each category and position, and estimated reimbursable expenses. And we ought to be able to see that for each task so that we can make some judgment as to whether it looks like an appropriate amount of effort and expense. But until we have that, I would say we could approve this subject to receiving that and deeming that appropriate or something. I mean, what's the timing of this? What?
Well, again, the state has not given us the final schedule, and,
Yeah.
and so we were just moving along based on their previous conversation with the town. So we are under no technical deadline at this point, but we could always go back, and I agree, I do think we need additional information before you're asked to approve an addendum of this size.
I'd like to recommend a special meeting or a special conversation with majority of us, with the engineering firm, with this explanation and all of these. I'm not happy with these numbers a bit.
Yeah, I would not recommend approving this at this point in time because there's too many questions. And like the last item, sub-consultants, that's pretty vague for another $107,000. What is that? Yeah. What's a user charge for $16,000?
Construction observation, $310,000.
Yeah. So,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, you're running a 2-inch pipe from here to here to here, so it's not
No way.
rocket science. I
Yeah,
got
so like I say,
issues.
give it another run. Let's get all that back and schedule a special
We'll have a
meeting.
special meeting, whatever it is. How much notice do we?
It's 48 hours for the special meeting, but we'll sort of see when the schedule comes back from the state. If we're pressed, we can certainly set a special meeting. Otherwise, I'll bring it back to you at the May meeting.
Is your point person on this Harlow or Jeffrey?
Jeffrey is the point.
Well,
Okay.
obviously, it'd be better if it's Harlow.
I understand.
All righty. Well, that kind of brings us to the end of the regular part of this agenda. We have one last item, which we've identified is the need for a closed session. Is there a?
I'll make a motion.
I've got it.
Okay, good.
They gave it to me. You want it? You can do it. You want it?
No, you
Oh,
got it,
okay.
man.
All right, I make a motion to enter into closed session in accordance with General Statute 143-318.11 sub A sub 5 for the purpose of discussing property acquisition.
For a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Purpose of discussion, is there probably need,
You plan to come back out?
yes,
Reconvene.
yes, we have to
yeah.
adjourn.
Yeah.
And if there is any additional business that might arise from that, then we have to conduct that in an open session. Do you
May-
have a comment, ma'am, about?
When you adjourn.
Oh.
Maybe a while.
Okay. All right, well, we're going to go ahead then, and we're going to temporarily adjourn our session. Do we have a motion to?
Not adjourn, recess.
Recess, and we have the.
No, we already did.
Okay, we didn't vote. So all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.